Yo, what is up, guys? It is Sean here today. I know I've pretty much been gone for like forever. Crucify me later, but that's beside the point. This video is going to be really long. So today, I've been kind of inspired by the recent trend of tier lists. So I decided to combine it with my favorite series of all time, Dragon Ball. So we're going to be going through the arcs of Dragon Ball minus GT, although I'll give my thoughts on that later. And we're going to be ranking them in terms of where I think they fit in the tier list. So, if you don't know what a tier list is, it's not like a top 10 list where I give a specific order. However, I just put a kind of category of how good I think the arc is, and it's not specific, and you kind of just rank all of them in said category. So the lowest category, it would be for this tier list E, and we simply work our way up to double S. Anyway, so let's start with the E through C tiers. So at the E tier, I have Golden Frieza arc and the very first arc of Dragon Ball. Now, these two arcs are here in the E tier for two distinct reasons. Two different reasons, my fault. When it comes to Golden Frieza arc, I hate the Golden Frieza arc. I hate it. Like, I absolutely hate it. Most arcs have, whether good or bad, have some kind of redeeming quality. The Golden Frieza arc literally has nothing. There was literally no reason why you should come and rewatch this arc. Especially in Super, the arc was terrible. There was no stakes. It didn't really matter. In the end, Goku didn't learn a lesson. Any lesson that they were trying to teach Goku was simply just reversed through some Deus Ex Machina type nonsense. The fact that Vegeta didn't get the kill on Frieza, the fact that Frieza somehow went from not even being able to beat Super Saiyan Goku in the Namek Saga to surpassing everything we saw in Z, literally everything in the span of 4 months. The fact that in the Super anime, it didn't even expand on his training so it can make it even the least bit more believable. So yeah, that's why I have the Frieza arc as low as it is, because it just for the reason for the other arcs that were included on here. So I put the first arc of Dragon Ball on the E tier just because it served more as a introduction into the series, it did its job, but like I don't think it was particularly good. The comedy was pretty good, but from a comedic aspect, it was really funny, so I like the slapstick of it, but sometimes arc you can really take seriously. And to keep it in mind here, I don't think any arc of Dragon Ball is bad by any means. So when I put it on the E tier, it's the arc that I think least represents Dragon Ball in its best light. So we move on to the D tier. Here we have the Fortune Teller Baba arc, as well as the arc before the World Tournament arc, when Gohan was an adult. Now, the only reasons why neither one of these arcs are E tier is because of the emotional payoff that came from both of these arcs. With the Fortune Teller Baba arc and Goku, that we as the audience get to meet Grandpa Gohan. We see Goku's excitement as he rushes towards his grandfather. And I think having such an emotional payoff like that really kind of helps offshoot kind of like this arc's main issue, which is pacing. My God, this arc goes by really, really slow. But I don't think it's that bad, but I don't think it's particularly any good either. So yeah, the arc's pacing is kind of suspect, but overall, the weight of seeing Goku's grandfather, I think, is enough to make this arc, at least not bottom tier. I say the same thing for the World Tournament Saga, in the sense that nothing really happened in this arc, honestly. However, I do arc that it kind of expanded on Gohan's character. We see him as a person as he tries to acclimate into society, and I think that that is an interesting dynamic that we never see in the series. Although I will say it dragged on for way, 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 way too long. I feel like if it was even like probably like 10 episodes, this arc honestly probably could have been higher if it was a little less. It kind of just got to the meat and potatoes of the arc sooner, which is obviously Videl, Chorus, and Gohan into getting into the tournament to kind of like begin this arc in the first place. So, I liked it as a slice of life, but I couldn't really take it seriously, and it just dragged on for a bit longer than I would have liked. But I don't hate it by any means, though. Alright, so moving on to C tier. I have in C tier to be the Babidi Saga. It's a continuation of the arc that I was just talking about after the World Tournament, and I also have the first World Tournament Saga. So the C tier is where I just have to say that it's the baseline of quote unquote good, because I think all the arcs are good, but specifically this is where the quality really jumps up. The arcs really jump up in quality. So basically what I'm trying to say is the discrepancy between the arcs from this point on is going to be a lot closer. So the reason why I have this arc at C is because honestly the fact that Gohan, Goku, and Vegeta was strong enough to deal with all the threats that Babidi had was just annoying, because Supreme Kai was getting on my nerves because he kept constantly underestimating the heroes, and it was getting to the point where he was becoming a detriment to their mission, because literally if those three guys just went there by themselves, they would have gotten the job done. Yeah, they might have risked waking up Boo, but at the same time they also might not have, considering that they required the energy of a Super Saiyan 2 Goku and a Super Saiyan 2 Majin Vegeta fighting each other to get to that point. So the kind of like what's I'm looking at right now, the lack of logic, the break of logic to contain this arc is what really lowers us down to C tier. But the reason why I wouldn't put it at D tier is because I really liked the Gohan versus Dabura fight, and I liked how it showcased kind of how Gohan's rustiness and his fighting instinct, as well as we see how crafty Dabura is, and Dabura is a good kind of like baseline for how strong Boo is going to be as an antagonist. And I think his spin attack is really cool. The fact that he can turn you into a statue if he spits on you is really interesting, as well as the fact that he just has a nice design. So that's kind of what keeps it in the C tier. Now the reason why the first World Tournament is also in the C tier is because I think it was a fun saga, and the first arc was a really lighthearted adventure, and the second saga is when it started introducing more of the fighters and characters that we become accustomed to. We get Master Roshi in this arc, we get Krillin in this arc, even the announcer guy, Nam, I thought was also pretty cool, and we get to see how our heroes face people that actually know what they're doing in terms of fighting, and not just annoying, crafty villains. I really liked Goku and Krillin's training in this arc and how unique it was. You could definitely tell there was a lot of Karate Kid inspiration coming in this arc, especially with Jackie Chun, who's obviously a reference to Jackie Chan. So yeah, I thought that the highlight of this arc, the highlight fight of this arc, was definitely Goku versus Master Roshi posing as Jackie Chun. I liked how Roshi was able to outsmart Goku by using his longer height to his advantage. And I like that he beats Goku to instill kind of like what's been the main theme of the entire series, which is that, no matter how strong you get, there will always be somebody somewhere, whether it be in your own universe or outside of your own universe, somewhere stronger than you. So I think the fact that the theme that's carried on for like 30 years of this series came from this arc specifically, I think is really cool, and it's part of the reason that I would never even think to put this arc lower than C. Hell, there's even a good argument for it to be B, honestly. I definitely put these two as like, C plus and C arcs, respectively. Alright, now that we're done with the lower tier arcs, we're gonna move on to the B guns, and so we have the B tier, the A tier, and the S tier. Now the B tier of the arcs I consider to be pretty good, kind of standard, not even standard, to be above average, but not quite great. A tier are pretty much are great, and S is excellent. That's like if you want to separate the tiers by class tile, I would separate it. And for the sake of this video, so in the B tier we got the Blue Saga, we have the second World Tournament, the 22nd World Tournament, and we have the Universe 6 Tournament. Now, okay, so as for the Blue Saga, the reason I have the Blue Saga in the B tier, ironically, Blue, B, whatever, is because for as great as the fights were, and I liked all the character moments, from Gohan unlocking his potential again, to, Vegeta realizing he loves his family, to Mr. Satan teaching Blue how to become a better person. I liked all of that. But it doesn't change the fact that throughout this entire arc, heroes just kept making stupid decisions one after the other. This arc could have been over in about half the time it actually ended if the heroes literally just, if you're not figuring this arc could have been over in like half the time had the heroes not how to use common sense. Like seriously, like simple things like not letting go of your opponent, not what's the looking for right now? Not letting your guard down, like something like that. None of the characters could execute, and Boo just kept not dying. It was annoying because because at this point our characters are seasoned veterans. This is their last arc of the series. They should know what they're doing by now. I wasn't a fan of how they made Gohan strong, but then he didn't finish the job. I like the message they were trying to get with the Earthlings being the ones to clean up their own mess. But if that was the case, then that's kind of what they should have built towards. I hated how Toriyama pretty much made Gohan strong, then he didn't do anything, so Gohan's strength is unnecessary. And the way Gohan gained his strength was questionable anyway, with him not really having to put in any kind of training. So when you factor on top of that he basically didn't even amount to anything because of the strength, it was kind of like, what's the point of even giving him the strength in the first place? But overall, I still enjoyed the Blue Saga. And the fights, there was some great fights in the Blue Saga, like Super Saiyan 3 versus Goku versus Kid Buu, Majin Buu, Goku versus Majin Vegeta, Gotenks versus Subaru. I enjoyed that one, Gohan versus Subaru as well. So, there were a lot of good fights, and a lot of interesting fights in there, which is why I would put which is kind of what carries this arc from C tier to B tier in my opinion. Now we have the 22nd World Martial Arts Tournament. I just said that tournament twice, but that's beside the point. Now, the reason I like this arc is this is kind of like the first time we see Goku kind of fight opponents, on a equal to him, completely serious without any gimmicks. Now, as I was saying that, I realized, General Tao was kind of his first major opponent, but Tien was kind of his first major serious rival. Because we know General Tao, it was kind of like, he beat up Goku, Goku gets his revenge, and that's it, kind of thing. Whereas Tien, there was a lot more nuance to his character. We see him, obviously, in his first round, break Yamcha's leg, because they were shit-talking each other before the tournament started. But at the same time, Master Roshi sees a lot of potential in him, and, we're led to believe that he's actually not a bad person, and he's actually a decent person. So I think it's interesting to see his character progression from when we first meet him to where he is by the end of the tournament. Also, just gotta say, two fights that I really loved in this, three fights should I say, that I really loved in this arc. It was Goku versus Krillin, Master Roshi versus Tien, and also, of course, the standout fight of this entire arc, Goku versus Tien. Goku versus Krillin I thought was a really entertaining match. Just kind of show It also shows like the discrepancy in Goku and Krillin, but that Krillin's still no slouch. And I like the Tien versus Master Roshi fight because it was a full passing of the guard. This was already into that before with Master Roshi when he had decided to fight Goku and Krillin to keep them humble. And of course, Goku vs Tien is just an awesome fight and really underrated. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. That fight was crazy. It was off the freaking chain. No cap. I'm sorry, I just said that. But seriously though, it was a really entertaining and great fight. The choreography was great. There were a lot of how do I put it? There were a lot of nuances in that fight that kind of built to the climax. We had like Shiatsu disrupting Goku. Tien giving Goku a free hit. And the fight ends. Relatively the same as how the fight out of the first tournament finals ended, where because of Goku's smaller body, he landed on the ground first when he was hit by the bus, and that's why he lost the match. So, and also I like how this arc leads directly into another arc that we will be talking about later. As you can see, it's already on the screen anyway in the A tier, but that's beside the point. Now, the Universe 6 arc is interesting because when I first watched it, I didn't really know what to make of it. This is like the first arc of Dragon Ball Super that was completely original. So, it was kind of like the series didn't really have a direction that it was going in yet. So, right off the bat, it was interesting to see these new characters being introduced, such as Champa, Beerus's brother. So doing a lot of like world building, or should I say universe building in this case. So we learned about how there's a bunch of other universes, how universe is a twin universe. We get to see new Saiyans, which was interesting. A lot of people don't really like some of the new ones. Besides, the Cabal isn't one of them. We got to get introduced to Hit, who is a fan favorite and one of my favorite characters from Dragon Ball Super as well. We also got introduced to Frost, who in a way is kind of like a more shrewder, sneakier version of Frieza. With this good guy facade. I would say this arc was not short of good fights. There were a lot of good to great fights in this arc. Goku vs. Hate is obviously the standout. Another fight that I personally really liked that I know a lot of people don't really talk about is Vegeta vs. Magneto. I thought it was really interesting how Magneto was able to use his temperature, heating of the temperature and the closed space in which they were fighting to his advantage to almost knock out a Super Saiyan Vegeta. What Vegeta and Kaba lacked in terms of a technical fight, it more than made up for in the character moment of seeing Vegeta go out of his way to help out his fellow Saiyan in attaining new strength. As I already said, it was interesting seeing Goku having to overcome the time skip, and I also thought it was really funny how Jocko was kind of useful in this arc because he was the one that helped. He was the one that pretty much gave Goku a preview of what exactly he was in for. I think another underrated aspect of this arc is I think the stuff with Monaka was kind of funny. Especially from time to time, especially in the last match after Goku had lost, where Hit had pretended to get attacked by Monaka. I thought that was really funny and interesting. So yeah, I would definitely put this arc in A tier, mostly because, and I'd only put this arc in a B tier only because of the fact that there were like no real stakes in this arc. Basically what was at risk was the Earth going over to Universe 6, but that's not really that big a deal when you think about it. So there was no real sense of danger or urgency in this arc, and that's why I had it at B tier instead of a bit higher. And also, the other thing I want to say about this arc is another underrated fight that I just remembered to include was Piccolo vs. Frost. I really liked how that episode specifically was specifically tied to the special beam cannon and how much of it Piccolo could charge up before Frost was able to get him with his poison needles. And I really wanted Piccolo to win because Piccolo's my guy and he's mad underrated. But yeah, I thought that was this arc was good, but like the lack of stakes and the lack of any clear direction of like what was going on is kind of what hurts the arc in general. But overall, it was still a solid arc, and I still enjoyed the fights within it. All right, now we're getting to the good shit. So in the A tier, I got the Battle of Gods arc, I got the Tournament of Power arc, and I got the King Piccolo Saga. Now, Battle of Gods is a special arc because this is literally an adaptation of the movie that brought the series back to prominence after a hiatus of like what 16 years, I believe. So I have a fonder memory of this arc that kind of propels this arc a bit further up than its actual quality suggests it should be, because I'm not gonna lie, this arc isn't. I don't think it's really A tier material. Probably more like B tier. However, so more like A minus. However, my personal bias to this arc is kind of what puts it in the A tier. Now, like the things I liked about this arc was basically Beerus versus Goku is why this arc is an A tier. I'm not gonna lie. The only other thing I liked about this arc was when Bulma got slapped and Vegeta decided to fight Beerus in her honor, despite being scared of Beerus after pretty much knowing of his history. Everything else in this arc was kind of So yeah, I'm not gonna lie. This arc isn't the best, but I mean it's not bad per se. It's not bad by any means, but yeah, it's not up there like that either. I'm not gonna lie to you like that. Next, we got the King Piccolo Saga. I really like this arc. This arc is also really iconic in the Dragon Ball series for like another reason, because this is essentially the first arc where there is just an out-and-out bad guy who Goku can't just simply overcome due to shits and giggles. Like, this is the first one, and this arc is introduced with a bang with the death of Krillin, one of Goku's closest friends, and a character that by this point the audience would have grown attached to. So right away from Krillin's death, the audience knows that this next villain is not playing around, like period. And this arc is very reminiscent of another arc that we're gonna be talking about later, where Goku had to put out all the stops to fight King Piccolo. I mean, King Piccolo beat his ass multiple times, even in his old form. He got his ass kicked by Tambourine, and I thought it was really interesting that Goku was still determined to kill these people, due to the fact that they took his best friend away from him. So, because at this point, this is the first time Goku had ever dealt with loss or death directly in the series, not counting Grandpa Gohan, because that technically happened off screen, and he didn't really find out what happened to him until the Saiyan arc. So yeah, watching Goku's character development as he responds to the death to his first major death in his life, I think is what was really an interesting dynamic of this arc, because up to this point, Dragon Ball for the most part had been really kind of like, I don't want to say happy-go-lucky, because there were a lot of mature moments, but I mean the tone wasn't anywhere near as dark as the dramatic shift in tone in this arc specifically, which is why I really like this arc. The sound is an ambulance driving by our house. But anyway, back to what I was saying. The reason why this arc isn't S tier is simply due to the fact that I don't like how Goku was able to catch up with King Piccolo. Like, if there could have been a more solid explanation, more solid reasoning for why Goku got as strong as he did to beat King Piccolo, then this arc would have easily been S tier, because everything else that this arc did right was just amazing. King Piccolo, he wasn't a stupid villain for the most part. You know, he wished for eternal youth, killed the dragon. So for like a while, people thought that the characters that died weren't gonna come back. So there were real stakes watching this arc. You know, he took over the world. Like King Piccolo was the first like legit villain in Dragon Ball. So just for that alone, as well as all the high stakes in this arc, that's why I put this arc at A tier. And now we have my second favorite arc in Dragon Ball Super, the Tournament of Power. I want to keep this one brief because this arc was long. Oh my god, this arc was long. Now, this arc was filled with lots of good and lots of bad. The good was really good, the bad was really bad, and the ugly was... there was nothing really ugly, it was just kind of boring, honestly. Now, the main standout fights from this arc are clearly Goku vs. Jiren Round 1 and 2, Hit vs. Jiren, Vegeta vs. Jiren, Vegeta vs. Toppo, Goku, Frieza, and Android 17 vs. Jiren. There's a lot of Jiren fights in here. Universe 9 versus Goku and Vegeta. I'm sure there's probably more. You know, even like the training arc fights, like Goku vs. 17. You know, and all those fights as well. The problem I had with this arc, actually, I made a video about the problems I had with this arc, so I want to keep this part of the video simple. Too much focus on Universe 7, and now I now focus on the arc in general. I wish that there was a lot more attention, that the attention was like spread out towards the other characters, because that would have benefited from that. The power scale in this arc was pretty questionable, not gonna lie. And also the fact that this arc suffers from a lot of pacing issues. There were times where this arc moved by really fast, and there were times where this arc legit just like felt to like a standstill, and like felt like nothing was happening. But overall, I did enjoy this arc a lot, and I liked a lot of the fights in it. And even the dull parts of the arc, I didn't particularly hate. I just didn't particularly enjoy it, obviously. So I definitely say that this arc is definitely A tier for me. Alright, now we up here to the really good shit, like the really good shit. So we got the imperfect, semi-perfect part of the Cell arc. We have the 23rd World Tournament for Dragon Ball, and we got the Goku Black Saga from Dragon Ball Super. So imperfect Cell arc, I really enjoyed this part of the Android Saga. So pretty much the Android Saga until Cell got perfect. And I really liked it because it always felt like there was a lot of progression happening. It always felt like there was something happening in this arc. It was never really a dull moment. You know, like this arc starts out, you know, Trunks comes back, he kills Frieza. So that establishes that Trunks is a strong guy. So, you know, when he's warning Goku about the androids, that also establishes how strong they are, because obviously Trunks is strong enough to take out Frieza, the villain of the last arc. To show how strong the villains of this arc are by comparison. Then you have the androids come. They demolish everybody, and so you see how strong they are firsthand, especially when you know that the characters trained for 3 years in preparation for that. So then when Perfect Cell is revealed, you know, it's a really shocking revelation, because, you know, at this point you would think the androids are basically the established villains for the entire arc, but it turns out that Cell has been lurking in the shadows. And after that, the arc becomes more about the race to who can get to the androids first. Can Cell absorb the androids first? Can the heroes get strong enough to deal with both threats? Like what happens when all like the characters in the game intertwine with each other? You know, even Piccolo is forced to get over his differences with Kami to merge with him, so he can actually like stand a chance to do something while the heroes are training. So that's one of the things I really like about this arc, is that there's never really like an idle moment happening in this arc. Something is always happening to further the plot along. You know, after the introduction of Perfect Cell, he starts absorbing people to get stronger. At the same time, the androids are moving around trying to kill Goku. At the same time, Piccolo has got strong by merge with Kami at the same time. Goku recovers from his arthritis, and he decides to go ground up the gang and go train at the lookout, and everything just kind of intertwines with each other. And I really like that about the plot. And if there's one thing I like about plot is when I feel like I'm actually like we're getting somewhere, and like it's actually on a journey, and the cars are like it would be like if you're in a car on a trip and the car wasn't moving. I wouldn't like that. Same way I don't like my plots to be stagnant. So I really like the imperfect Saga simply because it doesn't stagnate and it keeps going. I know that it feels like it's getting somewhere. That it feels like it's getting to an actual climax. So now we got the Piccolo Jr. Saga, the 23rd World Tournament, whatever you want to call it. What I really liked about this tournament was the way everything kind of just felt finished. Because obviously this was the last arc of Dragon Ball, and if you were going by the manga, this is kind of like the last arc where Goku was kind of like a kid, and this is kind of the arc where he's transitioning into an adult. And one of the things I really liked about this arc is this is the last arc of Dragon Ball. There are a lot of subtle hints and foreshadowings of the way the Dragon Ball Z portion of the manga at the very least, is heading. With like for example, Piccolo and Kami talking their Namekian language. While we didn't know that at the time, that kind of gives hint to the whole that they may not be of this world, or just how Goku is so much stronger than all his human peers. It's almost like his strength is from another world, So, this arc is kind of like a completion arc because Goku pretty much becomes the strongest in the world. He kind of gained everything he was going to gain out of living here on Earth, which is why that in and of itself is what foreshadowed the fact that more space threats were going to come, because there was pretty much nothing left to conquer on Earth. There was nothing grand left that the Earth could provide for Goku, and I really liked that aspect of this arc, as well as the fact that this arc was full of a lot of great knockdown fights. You had Goku versus Tien Part 2, you had Krillin versus Piccolo, which is underrated in my opinion. Hell, even Kami versus Yamcha was entertaining and got a few laughs out of me. And then of course you have Goku versus Piccolo. Easily the best fight in Dragon Ball, easily the best fight of this arc, easily one of the best fights in Dragon Ball, period. Overall, that does not get talked about as much as it should, honestly. In my opinion, it was so gory. Did a lot of damage to Goku, established Piccolo as a character, and I like the fact that it didn't kill Piccolo off at the end of the arc, so you knew that there was going to be more to come from this arc as a whole. Alright, so last but not least of the S tier. Now this is an arc that divides opinion like no other does. Lots of people love this arc, including myself. Lots of people hate this arc, and all for good reasons. Now I love this arc because this is the first time that Dragon Ball really kind of steps out of its shell in terms of certain things. Having a villain in Zamasu who while a somewhat righteous villain, who at least views himself as righteous, that was a unique thing for Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball had never done that before. Having the villain kind of build towards their evil in universe, I think is another interesting aspect of this arc. I think they could have done a better job of that, yeah, but seeing as how this is the first time, and Korean really didn't really give him only gave him like an outline of what he wanted. They did an admirable effort, in my opinion, and that's honestly what I really like about this arc. Because you can tell there was a lot of effort put into the makings of this arc. And I can definitely acknowledge that there are a lot of plot contrivances and plot holes in this arc as well. But overall, I really enjoyed this arc. I really enjoyed seeing Future Trunks. I really enjoyed Goku Black's character. I enjoyed pretty much all three of the Goku Black fights. I enjoyed seeing Future Trunks train with Vegeta, interact with his younger self. And I enjoyed the fact that even though this was technically an evil Goku arc, they they weren't stupid enough to just make the arc literal evil Goku. There was actually some kind of nuance, some kind of reason for an evil copy of Goku to exist. So I really enjoyed that as well. Some few grievances I have against this arc was, don't like the plot holes. I hated the Patara retcon. I thought that was stupid. And I wish that a lot of some of the things in this arc were better explained. But overall, I enjoyed the arc, so I can't complain too much. Now we got the double S tier of this. This is the cream of the crop, top of the tier, top of the list, peak Dragon Ball in all aspects. We got the Saiyan Saga, the Frieza Saga, and the Perfect Cell Saga. Now, personally, I don't know why they split up the Cell Sagas in that and the Imperfect one, but I'm going by how the tier list split them up. So, yeah, that's why it's like that. Now, the Saiyan Saga is a saga that I honestly I didn't appreciate the Saiyan Saga until I got older. As a kid when I watched it, I didn't like hate it or anything, but I kind of just thought it was kind of boring. It kind of like ran around a little bit, and I'd always kind of like skip past it whenever I was like rewatching Dragon Ball. I never really bothered with watching it. And it took me one day. I was watching it on YouTube, but I was watching it in story form, so the videos were chopped up in a way to kind of tell the whole arc in like a condensed story in one video. And I don't know, for some reason I started to appreciate the arc more when it was told from this perspective, as opposed to watching episodically. So yeah, the things I liked about this arc was obviously the introduction of the Saiyans and how that relates to our main protagonist in Goku. The audience at this point, I pretty much grew up with Goku as Earth's main protector, and as kind of like the strongest person on the planet. So to learn that he's from an alien race, not only that, but an alien race that he was designed to destroy the Earth for and become its protector. That kind of irony, I think, is kind of like one of the things that's driving the Saiyan Saga going. And then we kind of have the relationship between Goku and Vegeta when they first meet, and how it relates towards their relationship for years to come. At that point, Vegeta didn't really view Goku as anybody special. Of course, he viewed him as a low-class scum that should have been easily taken care of. And their dichotomy starts because Vegeta couldn't easily just take care of him. So that's kind of what questioned Vegeta to why he couldn't do it, and kind of starts the evolution of his character. Because at that point in his life, he'd pretty much been stagnant from childhood to the Saiyan Saga. And also, I liked the introduction of Gohan. Kid Gohan is my favorite version of Gohan, honest to God. And what I liked about Kid Gohan was the fact that he was really like green to everything. And as a little kid, you want to do the moves that they're doing. And he's at the beginning of the same situation as us. He can't do any of the moves. He's just a normal person. And to see, how he kind of evolves from that, always gave my little dumbass hope that I could probably do the same thing too. Obviously not knowing that, clearly that this, obviously it's fiction, but what I'm trying to say. So seeing his development as well as the development of his and Piccolo's relationship, I really liked in this arc. As well as the other characters. The other characters, played good roles in this arc. Chaozu sacrificed himself. Tien was shown to kind of help show how strong Nappa was. Even Yamcha's death was kind of there to show the strength of the Cybermen, and even more importantly, the Saiyans, because by comparison, because if the Cybermen could do that to Yamcha, someone who's stronger than Raditz, and that shows kind of like how strong the Saiyans were as a whole. So yeah, I really liked that aspect of the arc, and it's overall is really solid. It doesn't do anything great, but it does everything well, and well to the point where it gets double S tier. Then we have the Frieza Saga. The Frieza Saga, amazing. Honestly, the Frieza Saga, in retrospect, is a great arc. And this is the arc that really introduced me to Dragon Ball, because this is the arc where I first started watching Dragon Ball. Now, the beginning part of the first half of the Frieza Saga, so pretty much everything from when they arrive at Planet Namek to when they take out the Ginyu Force and they start having to fight Frieza on their own. The strength of all of that really comes from the same strength I gave the imperfect Cell arc not too long ago, where there was never anything dull happening. There was always something happening, and like I said, I really enjoy arcs like that. In the first half of the Frieza saga, you had the introduction of Frieza and his minions. You had Vegeta come with his own intentions, as well as our heroes trying to revive their dead friends. You had Vegeta killing off literally everything in sight, from Frieza's minions to innocent Namekian villages, slaughtering everything. You have our heroes moving secret, trying to gather Dragon Balls, trying to see how they can get stronger, knowing damn well that they are not stronger than either one of the groups that they are matched up against. And then you see Vegeta working his way up slowly, starting from Kui to Dodoria to Zarbon, to eventually the Ginyu Force. At the same time this is happening, he goes under Frieza's nose, gets the Dragon Balls, and then at the same time that this is happening, Frieza getting upset. He's bringing in the Ginyu Force to come and help him out. One of the most underrated moments of this arc was when Elder Mori destroyed Frieza's scouter, because if he hadn't have done that, if he did not destroy Frieza's scouter, this arc would not play out this way. Frieza would have been at a huge advantage, because he was already the strongest one there, and he would have had the scouters, so he would have been able to sense out pretty much everything that was happening. So the blindness of the Frieza Force is really what elevated this whole cat and mouse game that was going on in between the three different parties in the first half of the Frieza saga. Or I guess I should say first third, because the second third would be when the Ginyu Force came, and obviously you have the introduction of Goku, and Goku takes out the Ginyu Force, so we see how strong he is after his training. I think what's another really underrated moment of underrated aspect of this arc, when it pertains to the whole series, is that this is where the real gap between Goku and Vegeta starts. This training right here in the 6 days he did before the Frieza saga. This is where that gap truly originates from. Because up to that point, Vegeta was either stronger, or at the very least, they were about equal. And you get to see how each of them gets stronger throughout this arc in different means. And it kind of shows a difference in the characters too. Vegeta gets stronger because of his reckless behavior, and him taking advantage of the Saiyan anatomy that is getting Zenkai boost. Whereas you see Goku, who still at this point hasn't really embraced his Saiyan heritage yet, getting stronger through the Earth, the way of getting stronger just through training. And for him, that's able to bear more fruit and give him more power, because that's pretty much how he's been getting power his entire life. So that to see that the origination of their power gap, and to see how it's also kind of a reflection of the two's philosophy and lifestyle, as well as fighting style and training habits, is, I think, an underrated, really, really underrated aspect of this arc that nobody ever brings up. In fact, I literally didn't even think about it until I just brought it up right now, because I'm kind of just speaking off the cuff. So yeah, I think that's another part of the second partish of the Frieza saga that I really liked. And then you have obviously the third part after Frieza's pretty much wally wops everybody. Goku comes back, they fight, Frieza kills Krillin, Super Saiyan transformation. Super Saiyan transformation, probably the most iconic moment in this entire franchise. I don't think that's ever going to be topped. There was no way this arc wasn't going to be double S tier. Absolutely none. This arc was great. beyond great. It was excellent, beyond excellent. I can't think of a word beyond excellent, between excellent and perfect to describe this arc. But if you can think of one, fantastic, magnificent. Just put it down in the comment below. But yeah, this arc was really, really up there. And then we got the Perfect Cell Saga. The Perfect Cell Saga, I mean, the arc kind of speaks for itself. Perfect Cell was a great villain. He was a great foil to Gohan. Whereas Gohan was like a character that to work with the natural talent he had. He had lots of potential, but he had to work to fulfill it. Whereas Cell was given his natural talent. He didn't really work hard for it. He really just found shortcuts to gain ultimate power. And the dichotomy between Gohan and Cell is really interesting. Cell, as I was saying, he lives for the thrill of battle, whereas Gohan doesn't really like to fight. So I think it's interesting to see how their personalities clash and interact, as well as but also Goku vs. Cell is my favorite fight in this entire franchise. Personally, I think it's the best fight. It's really underrated because nobody ever talks about it. Everybody always talks about Gohan vs. Cell. And when it comes to Gohan vs. Cell, I think it's overrated as a fight. I like it more as a spectacle than as it's an out-and-out fight. I don't really think it works as an out-and-out fight. But as a spectacle, I think it works. The Gohan Kamehameha clashes, they were amazing. The moments, Goku's sacrifice, all those moments were great moments. At this point, the video is like 47 minutes long, so I don't really want to bore you guys anymore with any more of my rhetoric. But still, the Perfect Cell arc was a really great arc, and with all the great moments it had, all the build-up from the Perfect Cell arc, there's no way I can put it at double S tier. At this point, I'm really tired of the video. I just know Dragon Ball is an amazing franchise. All the arcs are there, are good and they're over there. Some organized, some hit or miss. It's all about finding what works for you and what you like in the story. But if you haven't seen Dragon Ball, let's now watch this entire video. Go and watch this franchise. The franchise is a great franchise to be a part of. And yeah, that was my video for today. Ranking all the arcs in Dragon Ball.